Scars are the signature of survival, a global story of battle, maturity, and meaning. They say a scar is what happens when the wound no longer hurts. But across the world, from the whispering deserts of the Sahel to the snow-laced mountains of Mongolia, scars are more than memory. They're messages. In many cultures, a battle scar is not just a wound, it's a symbol, a rite, a language that says, "I've endured and I've emerged." In Ethiopia, the warriors of the Surma tribe mark their bodies after battle, not to show pain, but proof. Proof they faced death, proof they chose courage. These markings aren't shameful, they are art, stories carved in skin. In Papua New Guinea, the Chambri and Sepik River people transform boys into crocodile men, literally. Their skin is sliced in the shape of scales to symbolize being swallowed by a spirit and reborn as a warrior. Pain is not the enemy. Pain is the path. Among the samurai of feudal Japan, a scar was sacred only if received from the front. A back wound meant retreat, cowardice. To bear a scar on the chest meant you chose to face what others fled. In Norse myth, Odin gave up his eye for wisdom, not in war, not in rage, but as sacrifice. His missing eye became a cosmic scar, a reminder that true power requires loss. And in Brazil, the Sater-Mao tribe have one of the most feared rites of passage. Boys wear gloves filled with bullet ants. Ants whose sting feels like being shot. Not once, but 20 times until they've proven their readiness for manhood. They dance through agony, shouting to the spirits, because maturity there is not age, it's endurance. Across African traditions, scarification once symbolized family, bravery, and belonging. To walk into adulthood with skin untouched was to remain incomplete. Only those marked by trials were trusted with leadership, marriage, or command. Scars meant you were real. Even in modern life, scars are often invisible, etched in the soul instead of skin. The single mother working 3 jobs to raise her kids, the immigrant rebuilding a life from rubble, the man who walks away from violence to protect his peace. They bleed in silence, but their strength, it roars. In Haiti's Vodou mythos, Ezili Dantor, the mother spirit, bears scars on her cheek from defending her child. She is worshipped not for perfection, but for her pain. Because love that protects, scars that love. In ancient Sparta, young boys were beaten and starved, not to break them, but to harden them. Only those who returned with heads held high were worthy of the Spartan name. Not because they never suffered, but because they learned how to rise. The Maasai of Kenya and Tanzania have rituals for young men to kill a lion, alone. They don't do it for sport, they do it to teach fear. And how to master it. The scars from that day are not hidden, they are honored. And what about today? The scars of heartbreak, of ambition, of betrayal, of falling 7 times and standing 8. You might not wear tribal paint or wield a sword, but every time you faced your darkness and refused to kneel, you earned a scar no one else could see. And yes, we've been taught to hide them, to smooth over the stretch marks, the loss, the emotional wreckage. But what if the scar is the proof you healed? In many indigenous cultures, elders are not chosen by age, but by experience. Not by how smooth their lives were, but by how weathered they became, without giving up. So maybe you're reading this with scars, emotional or physical, wondering what they mean. They mean you lived. They mean you fought. They mean you chose growth over comfort, fire over fear, truth over pretending. They mean you were initiated, whether by a tribal dance, a corporate collapse, or a quiet decision to choose peace over rage. In every region, in every tradition, one truth remains. Scars are sacred, not because they show damage, but because they show transformation. So don't hide them, show them with pride. They're your map, your armor, your story. And remember, the strongest warriors aren't the ones without wounds. They're the ones who know what it costs to keep standing, and stood anyway.